Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. The Chevelle is back on jack stands because it seems like we may have glazed the rotors a little bit. A little bit weird since I use the bed-in procedure that Willwood recommends. I've done it before. However, that is for pads, and maybe bedding in rotors is a little bit different. I did email AP Racing and they said that it does look like I may have glazed the rotors a bit. It's not as bad as I thought it was, but you can see I'm not getting full contact with the pads. So I'm going to pull the pads out of the calipers. We're going to sand those down nice and flush. I'm also going to sand the surface of the rotors front and back. Hopefully I don't have to take the rotors off. I'm going to try to do it with it on the car. We'll put it back together and we'll try bedding in again. This is a Willwood E-compound brake pad. It is a metallic pad, which explains some of the shininess to it. You can see right along here where it's not getting good contact with the brake rotor. So we'll sand this down, take off this ridge right here as well. I don't think these are glazed. I used them last year. They seem fine. Great for the street. Not the best for a heavy car on the road course though. But yeah, I don't think they're glazed. So we're going to sand these down, starting with 80 grit sandpaper, and then we'll finish it off with 150 grit sandpaper. It seems to clean up really nicely. You can see the before and the after. This is just with 80 grit, so I may not even go to the 150 because it's looking pretty good. The next step is the brake rotor, and I'm just going to use a little sanding disc, and I'll go around the rotor until this is nice and uniform and kind of a dull finish to it. But I got to make sure that I don't hold that disc in one spot too long, because obviously I don't want to warp the surface of the rotor. Brake rotors are done, all sanded down. Brake pads are back in. All these little micro scratches, they're going to go away almost instantly, so I'm not worried about that. So I'll put the wheel back on, do the other side, and then a little bit later go for a drive and try bedding these in again. I pulled a couple of spark plugs just to get a reading, which, you know, you got to be careful because I only have a few miles on it, no wide open throttle, but you can see it doesn't look too bad in terms of AFRs, but you can see from the ground strap that it would appear that I have too hot of a spark plug. This is a UR4. I probably should go to a UR6. But I might be able to help this a little bit by dropping some initial timing off, but we'll see. I've taped up my brake ducts, and once the spark plugs are back in, we'll go for a drive and bed in the brakes. So we're on a nice country back road with very little traffic, so we can safely do our bedding in procedure. I'm going to start off with some very light braking, and then we'll start to build up some slightly more moderate braking to get some temperature into the brakes. We're just easing into it. Make sure you always check the mirror when you're braking. Sure is warm today. Woo! Okay, we're now going to do a little bit more moderate braking. back up to about 60 miles an hour. We're gonna hit them a little bit harder. Better this time. So I think we're going to call that one done. During the cooling off cycle, you just don't want to touch the brakes. Now different companies have different procedures to bed in your pads. Willwood's more of like 3 to 5 stops at 3 to 5 seconds and let off for a few, I think double that time. So if you brake for 3 seconds, you let off for 6, brake for 3 seconds, let off for 6, you get the idea. AP Racing are much more aggressive. They're like, get them really hot, like up to your pad temperatures, which is like 1,000 degrees sometimes. And that's the better way to bed them in. So I also, from my contact with AP Racing, they said not every pad is going to have the same bed-in procedure, and the same with not every rotor. So the more aggressive the pad, if it's a race pad, you're going to need to get them hotter than if it was just your typical low-dollar street pad. The brakes are looking pretty good. We'll pull off our cooling. I pulled off the tape for the brake ducts just to allow it to cool down a little bit more, because according to Willwood's instructions, they want you to get the brake temperatures down to about ambient temperature. After letting the brakes cool down completely, I went for a drive. They felt good. You can see there's still some scratches on the rotors, which will go away. You can also see from the coloration just how hot the brakes got. Now, as we talked about, you want to get your brakes hot, but you want to build up that temperature gradually. Now, it is not uncommon to overheat your brakes, and in fact, you might even set them on fire. But if you do overheat your brakes and you feel that brake fade, start cooling them down immediately. Now, how many brake pushes and how much brake pressure to apply is going to depend on what kind of brake package you have. But the point is, whether you have new pads, rotors, or both, it is vital to do a bedding in procedure to maximize brake performance. Now with that, like, comment, subscribe, and thanks for watching.